Welcome back to the Yappy Hour, powered by Yappily, the podcast where we chat all things dogs with expert guests, real talk, and absolutely no fluff. Well, maybe a little bit of dog hair. I'm your host, Nathan Dunleavy, and today I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Sue Williamson, an expert consent-based groomer, behaviourist, and the founder of Happy Paws with Sue. Now, grooming isn't just about making our dogs look pretty for Instagram. It's a fundamental part of their health, happiness, and overall well-being. But for some dogs, and let's be honest, some pet parents, a trip to the groomer can feel as stressful as a dentist appointment. That's where Sue comes in. She takes a different approach, one that considers the whole dog, their emotional state, and their individual needs. So, if your dog hides under the sofa at the mere sight of a brush, or you just want to understand how grooming can be a positive and enriching experience, you're in the right place. So, grab a cup of tea, settle in, and let's dive into the world of consent-based grooming with Sue. Welcome back to the Yappy Hour, powered by Yappily. I'm your host, Nathan Dunleavy, and I'm so excited to bring you another episode today. Even more excited that we have Sue Williamson with us, who's our first groomer. So expect a jam-packed episode because I've got lots of questions for the lovely Sue, and I'm so excited to hear all about Sue and her journey. So without further ado, welcome to the Yappy Hour. Let's get started with your journey. What led you into the world of grooming and what made you take the consent-based route?
Okay, so when I was 4 years old, going back thousands of years, uh,
Oh,
my
wow, 4.
yeah, I was 4 years old. My auntie gave me a toy poodle, black toy poodle called Tina, and
No way. I've got
yeah,
4 toy poodles, so you've
oh,
literally just made me, wow, literally light up straight away, but we'll come back to that anyway.
yeah,
Sorry, carry on.
that's okay. And just having this dog, we did everything together. And even back then, I was doing like training her tricks, but I also always used food for her to train her. Not because I'd
Yeah,
ever read anywhere that we should do it, just felt she worked for food, so I used food.
yeah.
And my aunt, the auntie that had given me the dog, she was a dog groomer. She was a but she specialised in poodles. So
Okay.
it just made me want to become a groomer. But I was told it wasn't a proper job,
Oh, God.
and
Yeah, okay.
I went down the administration route instead. So I worked at various places, had a break when I had my children, and then went back later on. And then about 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Oh, my goodness. Right,
And,
okay.
and I took about 4 months off work to have surgery and radiotherapy and treatment. And when I went back, I just couldn't get back into work. I was in a
No.
management position, and it was losing 4 months worth of work was not good.
Yes.
My staff were trying to keep up doing my work as well as their own. I'd
Oh,
lost a
wow.
member of
Bless
staff
you.
I'd gone, and it was just too stressful. So
Yeah.
I decided one day after about 6 months of being back at work, I just handed my notice in one day. I thought I just can't hack this anymore.
Had
No job
enough.
to go to. Very
As you
scary.
do. It's how I started,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm very risk averse usually, so it was completely not right
Oh,
for me.
okay. It's a life-changing
A
illness for you.
Absolutely, yes. So
Wow.
I had to think of what I could do, and I'd already started training to be a talent and T-touch practitioner.
Did you?
Yeah,
Yes.
and I love dogs. I'd got one of my own, and I thought, "You know what? I'm gonna do the dog grooming," so I booked the training course immediately with Francine Bennett at LA Spa and Groom.
Right.
And I finished work on the Friday and started on the Monday. Absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved working with the dogs, despite the fact
Yeah.
the first dog I bathed was a German Shepherd.
Wow.
Yeah,
Big fluffy
absolutely.
pig.
That's absolutely drenched me. So
Oh, I bet.
I was
Yeah.
absolutely wet through. Fortunately,
Yeah.
I was kept a spare set of clothes in the car, so I was able to get changed and not have to sit all day in a wet. outfit.
Bless you.
And I did a 60-day training course to groom, and whilst I was doing that, I was still doing my T-touch training. And all I'd
Wow.
learned whilst I was doing my T-touch training, it included quite a lot of dog behaviour and body language.
Mm,
So grooming, what I refer to as the traditional way, just didn't fit with the T-touch way of handling dogs.
that's
So I
right.
de so I decided that when I finished my training, I was gonna open my own salon, and I was gonna take a more consent-based approach, a more
Yes.
dog-driven approach.
Yes.
So that's really how I decided to follow a more consent-based approach, just because I think if I had not been a T-touch training to be a T-touch practitioner, I might not have gone down this road, but because I knew the dog's signs that they were getting stressed and the
Yes.
impact it was having on them, I just couldn't not go down that route because it was just
Oh, wow.
the way that we're taught to groom was just counterintuitive to how I knew
Yes.
dogs coped better.
Yes.
So
Right.
that's why I went down that road, and
Yeah.
I don't regret leaving my job for a minute. Absolutely
I
love
bet.
working with dogs.
Looks
Sorry,
like you've got
my
one.
poodle's crashing it.
No, don't please apologise. Normally I've got a poodle sat on my lap. So it's only just that because he's got separation anxiety.
Oh, bless him.
So it's only that my husband's home that they're downstairs. So oh my god, what an amazing journey. Already some similarities between us anyway. And I really wish that I'd like reached out to you sooner because I've got so much I want to ask you because I've got a keen interest in grooming and I'm gonna chat to you offline about grooming anyway, because I don't want to take up too much of the episode for our listeners. But so many similarities there. I've got four toy poodles myself. One of them's got SA. My husband beat cancer about 10 years ago,
Oh,
and my mother in law had breast cancer a couple of years ago. So I totally get, obviously, what you've been going through in that respect. So it does take like a life changing thing for you to put life into perspective and make you realize that you don't want to go back to the stress of like a management job and
yeah,
in an office. I should have said at the start, I do apologize to as well our listeners. So you are a consent based groomer, and we're going to delve into that a little bit more. And you kind of refer to yourself as like a grooming behaviorist as well.
yeah, yeah.
um, and I love that you said about T-Touch because we've got a little reveal for our listeners. We do have Tony Shelbourne joining
Oh,
us soon.
she's the first person I went on a one-day workshop with Tony, and
Yeah,
she was so good, and it was after that one-day workshop that I thought, "I need to do more of this." So, and
yeah.
it was Tony that got me into T-touch.
Ah,
So,
please. So Tony's coming on at the end of next month. So to talk all about T-Touch and stuff. So I'm glad you mentioned that. And obviously, yeah, you do know Tony. I did when I first started in my dog training journey. I don't know what made me book on, but I actually booked a workshop weekend with Alex Wilson
oh, yeah.
um, on behalf of the dog training college. So he'd put on a T-Touch like workshop weekend, and I took my toy poodle, the one that I had at the time, and I just found the whole T-Touch method fascinating. So I love that you bring that into like the grooming side and stuff as well. So that's brilliant. So most people think of grooming as just a trim and a bath, but how does your approach differ?
So the majority of dogs I groom now have been referred to me from other groomers, either other groomers that have found that they can't groom them because they're too anxious, too aggressive, or they've been
Mm,
referred to by behaviourists or trainers, or
yeah,
the guardian pet parents you call them, don't you? Have decided
yeah,
that they want a consent-based approach to grooming, and so
yeah.
that's the only sort of approach I use now. Sorry, I forgot what the question was.
No, just
Oh,
that
yeah,
many
about being
people.
about so there is so much more to
Mm,
grooming than just a trim and a bath, as you say.
it's,
Dog
yeah.
behaviour, how dogs behave during the groom is massive. If you've got a dog on the table that's scared of the clippers or scared of your scissors, there's no way you can trim or clip that dog. So you've got to
Mm,
take a behaviour-led approach to
yeah,
one's condition, desensitize,
yeah,
you know, train. I don't like to say I train them to enjoy grooming because I don't want to train them to sit there and tolerate grooming. I really want them to be comfortable with it because I can, yeah,
Yes.
I can't easily just train them. They've got to sit there and they're not allowed to move.
Oh,
But I don't think that we should be doing that. It's one of those, just because we
no.
can doesn't mean we should.
Yes.
So I'd much
Yeah.
rather do use positive reinforcement techniques and counter conditioning to teach them
Yes.
that grooming is not scary and it's not something they've
Exactly.
got to sit there and tolerate.
Okay.
So, I mean, I must admit, there's quite a few of my dogs, my canine clients, I don't bath. Either the pet
Mm.
parents bath them the day before, and
Sure.
I've got a few that still cannot be bathed at all, even by the
Mm.
parents.
Mm.
So I know it's frowned upon to use your scissors and blades on a dirty dog, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter for me because my son's a blade sharpener, so I just
Right.
give my
Even
blades to
better.
him after. I do keep my older blades for those and scissors for scissoring and clipping dogs that have not been bathed first. But yeah, my son's a sharpener, so I don't have
Yeah.
to worry about that.
Yeah. Oh, but they're even better to have someone in the family that can do it for you. Yeah,
Absolutely.
and it would be the worst thing with a nervous or anxious or sensitive dog, to make it's quite a stressful experience going to the groomers anyway, like the
Absolutely.
vet. So the worst thing would be to do is to make that experience more stressful. So you want to make them feel comfortable and as relaxed as it can be because it must be quite a scary a thing for them.
I'm convinced it is. It's as somebody that has suffered from panic attacks in the past about the smallest little things, I can
Yeah,
really understand how they feel,
with
even when it's.
absolutely.
I mean, we know as groomers what we're doing is safe. The dogs are safe with us, but it doesn't matter to the dog if they perceive it as being scary. It doesn't matter,
Mm,
what we try and do. If they still perceive that task as being scary, they're going to
mm,
react in the same
yeah,
way as if it's a real threat rather than just a perceived
yes,
threat. So
yeah,
I think that's what we've got to start understanding a little bit more in the grooming industry, that a dog will react the same way, irrelevant of whether it's a real threat or a perceived threat. The same as we do, really, isn't it?
mm,
There's lots of things
yeah,
we're scared of that's completely, it's only a perceived threat. It's not a real threat, but our nervous system acts the same
yeah.
way. So
Yes, that fight or flight sort of like
absolutely.
way of dealing with it. Yeah, and I totally relate to what you're saying. I suffer really badly with severe anxiety, so you know, for a dog to be, put in that situation.
And it's not like
Uh,
you can talk to them like, if I was with you and you were having an anxiety attack, I can talk to you and help you feel
exactly.
better. You can understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying, but a dog can't understand what we're saying. So
No, no, it's all about just making them as comfortable and as relaxed and safe as possible. I love the approach, and I've been so looking forward to talking to you. There's
God
just so
bless you.
much. There's so much to speak about. So consent-based grooming is still a fairly sort of niche concept.
It is, yeah.
Do you face any resistance, or did you face any resistance or skepticism when you started?
Yeah, and we'd still do to a certain extent. It's a
Mm.
lot of groomers consider us a bit airy fairy, a bit of a
Oh, bit like
snowflake.
bit like dog trainers,
Absolutely, yeah,
positive reinforcement
it's.
dog trainers.
And I really think there's some of the resistance is that some groomers feel that we're saying, "Oh, you're cruel to the dogs. You're being harsh handling," and it's not that at all. It goes back to the dog thing, being scared, irrelevant of
Yes.
whether it's a scare. We think it's a scary thing or not. And
Mm.
in groomer training, there's very little information about body language.
Body language, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I'd finished my T-touch training, when I became a level 1 practitioner, it meant I could deliver one-day workshops. So I used to deliver one-day workshops to groomers, and
Oh,
it
wow.
became apparent really quickly that a lot of groomers didn't know what calming signals were, didn't understand body language, didn't understand trigger
Gosh.
threats. So I think if groomer training included dog behaviour first, how the
Yes.
system works, how the body language, how they
Yeah.
communicate through their body as well, how we can
Yeah.
communicate through our bodies and understand things like trigger stacking. I think
Yeah.
grooming would become much safer for both the dogs and for the groomers.
Well, exactly.
So I think that's why we've met the resistance. And I think a lot of groomers struggle with understanding what consent grooming is or holistic grooming. They think
Mm.
I've heard people say, "Oh, they walk in the door, you ask if they want to be groomed, and the dogs say no, so you let them go home." Well, it's not that at all, what
No.
consent grooming is. For example, the most common technique I use is table protocol. I have my table
Mm.
down low, I sit on a chair because 'cause I'm lazy.
That'd be me.
I've got a little set of steps, caravan steps, and I've put carpet on them, and I
Make
just
the make the texture nice on their paws,
yeah,
yeah.
so it's just like carpet, so it's like they're going up the normal stairs at home.
Yeah.
And I just train them to get onto the table, and then they're allowed to get off the table when they need to. So,
Mm.
you know, I've had a dog in this afternoon. She stayed on the table for 40 minutes and then decided she needed 5 minutes break.
Had enough, yeah.
So, yeah, she just needed a break. She went and had 5 minutes, then come back on the table. So when they're on the table, that means I can groom them.
Mm.
That is their consent for me to groom them. When they get off the
Mm.
table, I have to stop.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I must admit, when I first tried it, I tried it on mat protocol first. I sat on the floor with a mat. My friend had asked me to groom her working cocker, and where she'd been taking them to be groomed, they'd had to have two people to hold him and he had to be
Mm.
muzzled, and she said, "Will you try grooming him?" And I says, "Well, I'll try, but I'm not gonna promise because I won't use restraint." So I thought,
Yeah.
I'm actually just gonna sit on the floor with him for a start. So I'd got a big mat in there, so I sat on the mat, and he come and sat next to me, and I just did a little stroke, took my hand away, did another one, and he just moved a little bit closer. So I thought, I'm actually going to switch my clippers on, see what it is. I switched my clippers on, didn't move. So I stroked him down the back, he didn't move, and I actually managed to do two stripes down his back, clipping. And he got off the mat, and I thought, that's it, that's all I'm going to get done. He went and looked
Mm.
out the window and came back down and sat next to me again. And it just stunned me that he chose to do that. And
Yes, all about choice.
I managed to do a full groom on him without any restraints, without a muzzle, without another person holding him, just giving him that choice
Mm.
to get on and off, check in and out as he wanted. And
I
that was
love
it. I
that.
was a total convert then to consent-based grooming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's all about working with the dog in front of you.
it
I say
is,
that a
yeah.
lot. Yeah, and,
And it's
you know,
so
and
much less stressful for me as well because
mm.
I was talking to somebody on a podcast a few weeks ago and he said, "I think you're really brave working with aggressive dogs." And I said, "Well, actually, I don't work with aggressive dogs because they don't need to be aggressive because if they feel threatened, which is when that aggression comes in, they just get off the table."
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you
I can
know,
see how people probably are a bit threatened by it or a bit they just don't understand it. Like you say, it's a bit like
yeah,
vets, they don't really have like behavioural
no,
training. It's a bit like groomers, you know, so they probably feel a bit threatened and almost some groomers, and I'm not being don't mean to speak ill health, but you know, it's almost like a conveyor belt getting them in and out. But it sounds like, you know, your owners or pet parents, guardians, they've got dogs where they know that they're nervous, so they don't mind that it takes a bit longer. You may not even get the groom done.
you know what? It doesn't take longer though.
No,
It's
right.
I do cockapoo's my bread and butter basically, but I can do a cockapoo in an hour and a half.
Right. Oh, wow.
Because I'm
Yeah.
not spending any time for and that's with them having breaks as well and just taking the groom at their pace. And there's, hour and a half for a cockapoo is pretty standard, but it's because
Yeah,
all the work I put in at the beginning to make them
that's
feel
it.
safe, to build their confidence, to do all the counter condition desensitization, that's what
Yeah.
takes the time at the beginning. But once
Yeah.
I've done all that work and worked out their individual plan, we just fall into a nice pattern and routine,
Nice
and
little rhythm.
it's nice and straightforward.
Brilliant. So we've already touched on it a little bit, but moving on to our next section of consent-based grooming and why does it matter? So for those that might not be familiar, could you just sort of break it down what consent-based grooming actually means? Just a few steps.
Yeah, so consent-based grooming is teaching the dog a technique so they can communicate to us. So, because
Yeah.
we do, when we're working with dogs, we do a lot of communicating to the dogs, we do a lot of handling, but we don't give them much opportunity to say what they want and what
Communicate.
they don't want.
Yeah.
And they can't
Communicate back.
speak English or whatever language the groomer speaks. So we need to teach them a way of communicating to us. So, for example, say table protocol is my favourite technique. So I
Yes.
teach them to get onto the table. That's the first step. The second step is to teach them when they're on the table, they're going to get touched, and I'm going to touch them with grooming equipment, but they're allowed to get off the table.
Mm,
So when I'm first training them, I train them. I like them to get on without food, but I will throw food on the floor to get them to choose to go off the table.
sure.
Sometimes I will use a bit of food to make the table a really positive place to be. Um,
Yes.
so the first step is really teaching them on the table, you're going to get touched, you're going to get groomed. Off the table, that all stops.
Yeah.
So that gives them a way to communicate to me that, yes, I'm on
Mm,
the table, you can touch me, you can groom me, or
mm,
no, I'm off the table, please don't come near me with any equipment.
yeah.
It's one of those things you've really got to see it for it to
Yes.
sink in
Yeah.
how it's done, how it works. The same with the mat protocol when they come
Yeah.
and join me on the mat, grooming will
Yeah.
take place. When they get off the mat, grooming stops. I use a chin rest as well because,
Yeah.
particularly for dogs that don't like having the face done, teaching them a chin rest, you can get the face done much quicker than a lot of groomers will hold the chin fur, which
Yeah.
obviously then builds in more resistance.
Yes. You're pulling
Uh,
on that. Yeah.
yeah, because dogs will be trying pulling away, so you get
Yeah.
that more. But if you teach them just to put their chin in your non-grooming hand,
Mm,
it might take a few goes to really get them confident to do that. But
yeah.
once they learn that, that's one less stress for them because they know they've got that choice. I use place protocol quite often as well. So I groom a couple of dogs in their own home, and I've got
Oh
one
wow.
couple of dogs that uh, they've got 3 steps from their hallway down to the lounge, and he sits at the top of those steps to be groomed. So while he's sitting at the top of those steps, we groom him because they use the same technique while I'm not there. When he's had enough, he'll move away from the top of the steps. So it's a really clear
Mm,
message to me or whoever's grooming him that top of the stairs, grooming takes place, away
yeah.
from the stairs, grooming
There
stops.
was. Yeah. It's all about
They
that
get it. The dogs get
communication.
it a lot quicker than we do.
Yeah. Always the way. Oh, brilliant. That's great. Thank you. So, in terms of a dog's emotional and physical state, how would you assess that before you start a grooming session?
So, t- physical, obviously, because I'm a T-touch practitioner, we are always taught to make observations before we start working on dogs. Have a
Mm,
look at the coats, changing coat patterns can indicate things like
mm.
tension. And I've actually just completed a Galen um,
Oh, I've been
introduction of,
hearing some.
yeah, they
Been
do.
hearing some stuff about this.
Yeah, you'll have to have I'll send you the link for it. I've just done it's a 6 hour um, online session, face to face on, but online sort of thing, and it goes
Yeah.
through what's good posture, what to look for not faults in posture, but what's normal and what's not normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I found it really interesting, really, really
Oh wow.
it's just added another layer for me. Then there's a
Yeah,
degree you can go on to do, a diploma you can go on to do, but that takes 3 years, and
yeah.
yeah,
I
I'm
think
not sure
I
I'm
think I've seen
quite
a
in that right
yeah, a
place
colleague
yet.
you might know, Deb Betts. I think she's doing something
Oh,
like
Debbie, yeah, no, know Debbie
yeah,
really well. Yeah, she's
yeah. I
doing
think
the
she's
diploma, isn't she?
she's doing a diploma rights, but there is like a
Yeah.
like you said like a taster course or something.
Yeah, they do a
In,
couple of taster courses, so
yeah,
they do one that's just like I think it's £20 and it's just an hour and a half or something like that, and
yeah.
it's just basically shows you what's a good position and what's a, where you can
Oh,
start to pay more attention to your own dog. But I just finished that yesterday, so but I do always pay attention when the dogs come in, see, whether they're limping, and I do, to be fair, I always do ask the guardians if they've been fine since the last session,
yeah,
whether they've had any health issues. Um,
yeah.
so, I mean, groomers have more hands-on experience of dogs than any other canine professional, to be
Mm,
quite honest.
mm,
So, yeah,
definitely.
so I always do look at them physically when they first come in to make sure they've not got a leg hanging off or
Yeah, can you imagine? Remind us, Sue, of the name of that because I can't. I struggle with the name of it. Is it Galen?
Galen. Yeah,
Just
Galen.
yeah, just Galen therapy, is it or something?
Galen myotherapy.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Like,
Um,
brilliant.
and
So
then
how?
from
Oh, go on, my
oh,
love.
sorry, from an emotional point of view, I'll just be
Yes,
watching body language,
yes,
you
yeah,
know,
language.
and how happy they are, whether I'm having to drag them in from the gate, which
Yeah, no
rarely
dragging
happens.
involved.
Yeah, there's no dragging involved at all. And yeah, I mean,
But
I
you,
think that's one of the best bits of the job, I'm go most I have about 50% pet parents today, which is quite different to a lot of
oh,
groomers.
yes,
But the ones that don't stay, I go and meet them at the gate, and I'd say 95% of those, I'll open the gate and they come running
mm,
straight through into my salon. I think there's just one
yeah,
I do carry him in because if I don't carry him in, he gets a little bit waylaid, shall I say, and
yeah.
he'd spend hours walking around the garden.
Yeah, I'm big on all pet parents, pet professionals doing like understanding body language. Like my team, because I've got a dog walking business, my team all do like a understanding canine body language workshop within the first few months of coming on
Yeah,
board. And when I used to teach puppy classes in person, I'd talk about it to pet parents. But I'm very big on even them doing their research even before they get a dog to learn. It's all about education around
it
body language. I'm
certainly is,
really big on
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, in my book, the Guardian's version of the book, it talks about calming signals and body language. So does the
Yeah.
kids version. So they all get a copy of that when they first start bringing the dog to me. So
Oh,
they
okay.
can understand
Yeah.
about body language and trigger stacking because I think it's just
Yeah.
important for Guardians to understand that, as it is for
Yeah.
me to understand that.
Yeah. I'm glad you touched on your book because I do have it, but it's actually downstairs in my bookshelf. But I do need to. I do need to. I've got so many books I need to read. It's terrible, but I need to. I need to. I'm making a conscious effort to start reading more this year. But I need to read your book. But let's just tell our listeners about your books. Or I didn't know there was. I think I know there's one. I didn't know there was a Guardian and
There's
a
there's there's three versions. There's
oh, wow.
Yeah, so there's taking the GUR out of grooming your dog, which is for pet parents. There's taking
Yeah.
the GUR out of the grooming salon, which is for grooming professionals. And
Yeah.
then there's introducing your puppy to girless grooming. So that's
Yes.
for
Right.
new puppy guardians that teach them so that they can do a lot of the work at home before they take them to a grooming salon so that when
Yeah.
the puppies go for the first session, they know some of the things to expect.
We'll touch on that a bit in the episode about obviously
Yeah,
getting puppies used
yeah.
to it and desensitization. Now I'm gonna have to check what version I've got. I remember seeing being in one of your groups and a book being posted, but I'm gonna have to check which version I've got.
They've all got
um,
different dogs on the front.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna after this. after this hour, I'm going to check and like make sure I've got the right one. So many pet parents worry about their pups feeling stressed at the groomers. What are some of the key things that you do differently to make it a positive experience?
So I, as I say, about 50% of my pet parents stay anyway, so they can
They
completely
stay.
observe whilst
That's
they're there.
good.
They can see how their pets are. And I find in the
Yeah.
main that the dogs do better with the pet parents there, with their person
Oh,
there.
okay. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and I think some of that's down to because sometimes when you're working one to one with a dog in grooming, it can come a bit intense for the dog because you're just
Mm,
focused on that dog. Whereas if the guardians are there, I spend some of the time talking
mm,
to the guardians as well, and it sort of takes the focus off the dog a little bit. I am obviously
mm.
concentrating on the dog to groom it, but it gives
Yeah.
it, you know, it just makes it a little bit less intense for the dog, and it gives me somebody to talk to because I do work on my own. And
Yeah, I know
also
that
with
feeling.
with having the pet parent there, I can talk to the pet parents. Oh, did you see that? What he did there? And oh, I think this leg's a little bit, in an odd position, and talk about finger
Mm,
stacking. And then I get more
that's a good idea.
information about how they are at home, what they do on a daily
Yes.
basis, and that it all feeds into how I can adapt the groom to suit each dog. But I think when new dogs come to me, I do ACE-free work for the first session. So I
Ace,
put
yeah.
things like licky mats down, snuffle mats, bits of
Love
old
that.
carpet, anything I've got sort of laying about, and then I put different treats on them, stuff they can lick, and that's all
Yeah,
I do the first session. So they come into the salon and they're allowed to just do that free work. I don't touch them.
yeah,
They get to hear some of the noises, the everyday noises in my salon. Like I've got a tree next to my cabin, and I get a lot of pigeons walking up and down the top. So they'll hear those. They'll hear my dogs barking in the house. They get to know my
Oh,
voice and the smell of me and the smell of the salon. And why,
yeah.
because they're getting used to all this while they're doing free work and the calm, it starts to build up a really positive experience for them straight away. And then I just build
Mm,
on that over the next 3 or 4 sessions of doing a little bit more
mm,
each time. So by the time I need to groom them, they know me really well, they know my salon really well, they're comfortable, they feel
that's
safe,
good.
and that's half the
That's
battle.
important. That's important. So, just for our listeners that don't know what ACE stands for, that's Animal Centered Education,
Yeah,
ACE Free Work, and the wonderful Sarah Fisher. So, another little reveal: Sarah is coming on to the Yappy Hour soon. So,
lovely.
I can't wait to have Sarah on. We're just in the process of getting her booked in. So, yeah, ACE Free Work is definitely something that's worth looking into. Do you think that traditional, bit controversial, do you think that traditional grooming environments could contribute to anxiety in dogs?
Absolutely. And again, it all comes
Mm,
back down to this not feeling safe. If you don't feel safe
yes,
somewhere, it
yes.
just adds to the stress. And it's not because
Mm,
the groomers are harsh handling, it's just being in a strange environment with strange people, strange smells and sounds. It's like, I also liken it to us going abroad, not knowing anybody there on our own, and we're just pushed
yeah,
into a room with complete strangers talking a different language, and then they
yeah,
start touching us and moving us from one seat to another, and your brain's
yeah.
exploding. You don't know where the toilet is.
Different smells and
Yeah.
sounds and yeah.
You don't know the protocols of that, where you go, and you don't know what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing. You don't know what they're gonna do to you
Oh,
next. So your nervous
oh,
system will
so
just be going,
scary. Put yourself in the shoes of the dog.
absolutely, yeah. So
You wouldn't like it.
it's not that the groomers are being harsh or doing anything harmful, but it's just that lack of understanding that really the dogs need to feel safe before you start grooming them, and that
Mm,
doesn't happen a
mm,
lot. Many dogs, they get taken to a salon for the very first time, and immediately they're put onto a table or put into the bath, and they have all this strange stuff because dogs don't know how to be groomed. They're not born knowing how to
No.
be groomed, other than the parents,
Yeah.
the canine parents cleaning them, and that's sort of natural um, way of grooming. And then all of a sudden they're
Yeah.
coming into a salon with all this stuff going on with them, with a complete stranger. They're somebody they don't understand or know. There might be other dogs in the
Yeah.
salon barking. It's a lot.
It
So
is a
I
lot.
definitely
Yeah.
think even one to one. When I first started to grooming, I wasn't. I'm quite particular what clients I take on now. They've got to
I
want
see.
they've got to want my particular skills.
Mm,
I
mm.
don't. If somebody rings me up, "Oh, I want my dog grooming tomorrow. Can you do it?" They're not the client for me. But when I used to take those sorts of dogs, or any dog on, they get them. Oh, they're fine being groomed. The groomer says they're fine,
Of
and
course.
then and then you'd sort of get the dog in the bath, and the dog's freaking out, or throwing calming signals at you
Mm,
right, left, and centre, and it's a bit upsetting that because I don't want to criticise other groomers. I
mm.
didn't know things years ago. You don't know what you don't know until you know it.
Exactly, yeah.
So I
Yes.
think I think the groomer training lets a lot of groomers down. If body
Yes.
language and dog behaviour was taught in groomer training, then the groomers would know what I know, basically.
Yeah, definitely.
So, even now, I've just took a new dog on. He started yesterday, so she came and did a free work yesterday, and the guardian says, "Oh, she's fine in the bath and being dried." And automatically now I put a question mark over that. Is she really? So she won't get bath for a few weeks yet, a few sessions yet. So it'll be interesting how calm she and relaxed she is in the bath.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm.
it's just a bit sad that if the groomers had more dog behaviour knowledge, they could. Because some of the things it's quite easy to adapt some things that takes a lot of stress away. For example, doing that
Yes.
first session, instead of bathing them and drying them and trimming them on the first session, if you just had a session where they just were able to explore your salon.
Yeah.
Most groomers, in fact, stand up grooming, so they've got the table probably 3 foot high. When you think,
Mm.
if one of your toy poodles put on a 3 foot high table, that's extremely high for a toy poodle,
Yeah.
isn't it? Or for any dog.
It is.
And then they've got
Yeah.
the safety aids on, so they might have a safety aid around the neck and one on the belly. If they've never had those on before, again, that's quite scary. And then
Very alien.
somebody's then they start getting brushed and touched and moved around by a complete stranger. And I think, you know,
Mm.
so what I've done, because I have my table low, I don't need to use the safety aids. So the
Oh,
dogs are totally
right.
free on my table. So I've taken my
Mm.
H bar off, so because I don't need it.
That's
So the
good.
dogs have got complete freedom to move around, and that takes a lot of stress out for some dogs as well. I don't use muzzles because I
Right.
don't mainly because I don't need to, because if the dog gets stressed, it just gets off the table. So
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
there are lots of
Yeah.
things that groomers can do. And I mean, one of the biggest things I would say, if any groomers are listening and you want to think about things that reduce stress in the salon, simply changing from a noose or a collar around the neck to a harness type restraint or safety
Mm.
aid can make a massive difference in itself, because
Mm.
with a harness type on, they've got a better sense of balance. It's more central rather
Yes.
than being all the restraint being in one place. It's more
Yeah.
centered around. So just changing to a harness type,
Mm.
and a lovely lady whose business is Just Think Dog has just designed a grooming harness, which is
Oh,
amazing.
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
specifically for
wow.
grooming. So Yeah, so
Yeah.
simply by changing from that collar and belly strap to a harness makes a massive difference.
Mm,
Lowering your table
brilliant.
can make a big difference as well. There's lots of little things you can do that
Yeah, little
add up to a
adaptions.
lot.
Definitely. Thank you. So, just moving on to some of our common grooming challenges and solutions. What's one of the biggest struggles that dog parents have? Sorry, one of the biggest struggles that dog parents have is getting their dog to tolerate brushing at home. Do you have any top tips for this, please?
Yeah, there's a couple of things you can do. I also encourage new puppy guardians when they want to brush the puppy, put a licky mat on the floor or wherever they're going to groom.
Yes.
Make it a consistent place where you do your grooming so the puppy knows when it's in that place, that's when grooming is going to take place. So
Mm,
it builds up that this is what happens here. So don't make it their dog bed. Don't make it somewhere that they really find rewarding. Just make it a nice, quiet place that you can groom them.
mm.
Pop a licky mat on the floor, or the Lick and Calm one that Pet Remedy have just brought out, which got
All
suckers all
right.
over the back. I don't know if you've seen it. So you
Oh,
can stick it to windows, side of cupboards.
oh yeah, the bath.
Yeah, it sticks everywhere, even if you don't want it to.
Oh,
So you can put it in the bath as well, and it sticks really well to the bath. And whilst the puppy's licking away, just gently start to brush or comb or do whatever you need to do while they're doing something positive. So it makes
yeah.
that easier. When I first started up grooming, I knew this lady a long time. I knew her from agility with her previous dog and my previous dogs. And she brought her little Shih Tzu to me, and the poor dog was matted. So I shaved him off
Oh, okay.
completely. Brought him back 6 weeks later, matted again. I said, "Look, why aren't you brushing him?" She says, "Well, I have to pin him down to brush him, and he doesn't like it." So I thought, "We've got to find a
Mm.
way that she can brush, and he's got some power." So we came up with this technique I call trust brushing, and I said, "Right, this
Oh,
evening, when you're sitting watching the TV, just get the brush out, do one stroke on him, then watch what he does. Does he move away? Does he show you a calming signal? Because if you know about calming signals." I said, "If not, do two brushes and then watch what he does. If he moves away, just let him move away. If he shows you a calming signal, just stop for a little while and then try again." And this is what she did. She gradually was able to do 4 or 5 brushes, and then he'd move away, but then a bit later on she'd do a bit more, and then we found when she brought him back 6 weeks later, he was just a bit matted on his legs, but his torso, which had
mm.
previously been matted, was completely mat free, and by the 12-week mark, she brought him back and he wasn't matted at all, apart from the odd tag here
Yeah,
and there, and that's still how she brushes him now, she just move
yeah,
on a bit. If he moves away, she stops and waits for him to come back, and
yeah.
now it's rare he comes with a mat now. The only time poor lady had, surgery for cancer last year, and there were a couple of
Oh,
times
gosh.
where he got a few more mats than usual, but you know what? I totally understand that you probably haven't got the energy to brush him,
Mm.
so we just did, you know, did what we usually do,
Yeah,
just cut the mats out and sorted him out, and then she brought him back, and now she's
yeah.
recovered. We're back into the routine of him not being matted at all. So
Right. That's
there are
funny.
sorry, go on.
Yeah, go on. It's funny because our next question is about matting, but yeah, go on.
Yeah. So, there's usually a reason why people are not brushing the dogs. So I always
Yeah.
like to take the time to ask them why, because it might be they're using the wrong brush, they're using the wrong technique.
Mm,
I've got a
mm.
friend that has got really bad arthritis in her hands, so brushing
Oh,
is really difficult for her. So if we
yeah,
can
I bet.
understand the difficulties people are having, we can find solutions for them.
Definitely. Yeah. So talking about continuing matting, there's some breeds that seem to turn into walking Velcro pads overnight. What should pet parents do and avoid when dealing with matting?
Okay, so the best thing to do if you've got a dog that's matted, if your pet is matted, take it to a groomer. There's some breeds that can't be clipped off or shouldn't be clipped off, but I think we'll discuss that later. So if you've got like a Shih Tzu or a Cockapoo, wool-coated dogs that can be clipped, just take it to the groomer, get it completely shaved off, start from scratch. Um, I also advise my pet parents to go for a length that they can manage in between grooms. So most of my
Mm,
clients do choose to go short. I've had a Millie who I've had in this afternoon. Her guardian likes to keep her a little bit fluffy, but she brings it in every 4 weeks so she can maintain that
mm,
coat, that length in between grooms. So most cockapoos come every 6 weeks.
mm.
So instead of coming every 6 weeks, she comes in every 4 weeks just so she can maintain that little bit of fluff. So
Yeah.
always go for a length that you can maintain without torturing your dog. I live in quite a rural area, so I get a lot of dogs that spend a lot of time in wet fields, particularly at the moment. So
Yeah.
again,
God, it's a
if
mess.
if they've got fluffy dogs that are going to spend all day in fields or most of the walks in fields, go for a shortcut. It's much easier. So yeah,
Mm.
again, most of mine are taken short because they want to go in the fields and don't want us to spend hours brushing out matting and thistles and all sorts. Not well, it is sort of technically related, but if you are going to take your dog where there's lots of brambles, um, and twigs and stuff like that, I've got a working cocker spaniel that loves going in hedgerows and comes out with all sorts of foliage. So what I do, I keep a little pair of scissors in my treat pouch. So if he comes out
Yeah.
the twig, I immediately can cut that either through the branch, through the twig, and pull it out so it doesn't get raveled up and cause a mat. Or,
Yeah.
if it's really embedded into the fur, I'll just cut the fur out. And I can do that
Mm,
immediately rather than an hour later when we're at home, when it's already started to cause that
mm,
big mat. So,
mm.
yeah, really go for a length that you can cope with that's practical for your dog's life. If it doesn't
Yeah.
enjoy being brushed, go for a short style
Yeah.
and then just maintain it. And if you have got a dog with a difficult coat to maintain, go to the groomers more frequently.
Mm, mm.
Because they will
Yeah.
be able to
Makes
maintain the
sense.
coat in between grooms for, in because I know some people decide to go have, say, a groom every 3 weeks, but one time it's just a mini groom and the next time it's a full groom. So
Right.
I used to do one. She'd come every 3 weeks and she'd have a bath and just to tidy up, and then the 3 weeks later she'd be back again and she'd have a full groom. So some groomers will
Right.
offer that for you as well. Especially if you
Yeah.
can't maintain
Well,
6 weeks, it's just a better
yeah.
option than leaving it 6 weeks and then being fully matted 6 weeks later.
Yeah. Brilliant. What would you say is like the biggest mistake that owners or pet parents unknowingly make when it comes to grooming?
I think it is this, "I've got to get this done, so I'm just gonna hold on to his collar and get him brushed
Mm,
or her brushed,"
mm,
and then, course, you
mm.
add in that if you don't know how to brush properly either, that just makes it even worse because a lot of people will just brush the top layer of the dog and then it looks like they're not matted, but then when you get to the base of the fur, it's pelted. So it's really important
Wow.
if you've got a long coated dog that you part the fur, then brush out
Mm,
from the root right down to the end. Keep brushing like that, then
right.
repart the fur again so that you get down to the skin every time. Not brushing the skin, obviously, but you brush from the root outwards. And then when you've brushed them all over
Mm,
through with a comb to make sure there's no mats, but just brushing the top layer, you're just going to get the
mm.
pelting and that's when they have to go really, really short, and it's really uncomfortable
Yeah.
for the dog.
Right. Right, brilliant. So moving on to the emotional and physical impact of grooming. And so people often see grooming as just an aesthetic thing, but does how does proper grooming impact a dog's overall well-being?
It all does come down to the matting, to be quite honest. If your dog gets matted, it doesn't work. The coat doesn't work properly at how it's supposed to work. It doesn't protect the
Mm,
skin. It doesn't protect because strangely enough, dogs' fur is designed to protect them from the elements. So
mm,
if your dog's coat is matted, it's not going to protect them from those elements. So it's
yeah.
particularly worse in summer. So if you say we've got a matted poodle or cockapoo, what happens is if it's a really hot day, the coat will absorb all that heat and then keep that
Mm,
heat onto the skin and not let any air flow through it. Whereas if it's nice and brushed out, that acts as a protector against the sun. The fresh airs that can go between the different pieces of fur, and it keeps the skin much cooler. So it's protecting
yeah.
the dog's skin. So yeah, dogs have particular coats for a reason. So like
Yeah.
A Labrador that was bred originally to retrieve, particularly in water, their coat
Yeah.
is text, the water just drips off them unless they're in their
That's
fur.
right.
Have you ever tried to wet a spaniel? If you've ever tried to wet a spaniel, you'll know that their coat is quite water resistant, and that's because
Yes.
their job was to be out in the fields all day flushing. So if it was chucking it
That's
down with
it.
rain, you didn't want your dog soaking. So the coats are designed for a purpose, and
Mm, yeah.
keeping them in the condition to
Excuse
achieve
me.
that purpose is what we need to be doing.
Brilliant. Do you think dogs can actually enjoy being groomed once it's done right?
I think if it's introduced as a puppy in the correct way, I think some dogs do enjoy it. Going back to when my auntie gave me my toy poodle, she had miniature poodles. She had three miniature poodles of
Oh,
her own, and she had
oh
one.
wow.
She had a beautiful white one, and this dog, honestly, I used to watch her grooming it, and when it came to doing it, she used to paint her nails. And she would literally sit with a paw held out to have her nails painted. But again, no restraints, free movement, and she always looked really glamorous. You could imagine her walking around France with a little handbag on her paw
Yes.
and just,
Yeah, I can
strutting and
picture
stuff.
it now.
And you could tell that she enjoyed the attention. So I think, yes, if it's
Oh,
introduced properly, it's stress-free, then dogs can enjoy it. Unfortunately, a lot depends on the dog's temperament as well. Dogs with anxiety. Resource
mm,
guarding actually is closely linked to body handling issues. So
mm,
many of the dogs I groom also have resource guarding issues as well. And I suppose it's just their way of resource guarding their body. So
yeah.
yeah, so I do think it's possible for some dogs to enjoy being groomed. I've got a few dogs that I've groomed since they've been a puppies, and they're my easiest dogs to groom because it's been
Mm,
they've been not trained to be groomed, but they've experienced it in a positive way. So, they just
good.
let me get on with it, including to my own poodle. One of my own poodles, I had her from 8 weeks. Brilliant breeder, really good breeder that started grooming them before I had her at 8 weeks, um,
That's good.
and yeah, bath her, put her on the table to dry, and she just lays down on the table and lets me dry her. It's dead easy.
Oh, okay. Brilliant. So, handling anxious or sensitive dogs in the grooming process is our next section. So, many dog parents have spicy or anxious dogs. How do you approach the grooming for them?
Yeah, it goes back to what I was talking about, how I introduced them to the salon. They get to do free
Yeah,
work for me. I get to know the dog first, put a plan
yeah,
together, areas of anxiety or where they need to use whether you previously used aggression to stop that happening. And it's just building a plan around their
Mm.
preferences, building on what they like,
Mm.
and working on what they don't enjoy to change their emotional response to that element. So I've been
Yeah.
working with a Cavapoo recently that had been banned from previous groomers. He'd spent 2
Oh
years being
gosh.
sedated, having to be sedated for grooms.
Wow.
After 4 sessions with him, I was able to clip him off completely after 4 sessions. I think I got one
Wow.
I think I got one growl in there, but
Yeah.
no aggression. So by eliminating the need to show aggression, I'm making the groom easier for them, and I'm making the groom easier for myself as well.
Mm.
And he's just the most delightful dog now, he really likes being bathed, which is really strange. Most dogs hate it, but he loves the bath. So what we do now
Yeah.
is one session he'll get a bath, and we'll do a little bit of training of the things he don't like, and then the next session he gets clipped off, which is the bit he doesn't really enjoy so much. But now, I can clip him off. Um, and it's just working with each individual dog to find their dislikes and
Yeah.
their likes. With
That's
I
it.
do find the generally anxious dogs a little bit more difficult, because if they're generally anxious on day to day, there's not one specific thing in the salon particularly that they find difficult. It's everything they find
Mm.
difficult in the salon. So again, it's
Mm.
finding the best way for each individual dog so that they
Yeah.
can cope better. I've got, for example, the little dog that I said I'd go to his home to groom. He would come to the salon, didn't like the car, didn't like how his harness put on, and we taught him table protocol, and we'd probably get 10 minutes of grooming using table protocol, but after 10 minutes, he would totally disengage, couldn't cope, wouldn't get back on the table, would find stuff to
Mm.
sniff around the salon that he'd never not bothered with before. And then it was really difficult for the guardians to get his harness back on to get him in the car.
Gosh.
So I said,
Yeah. Got to work up.
"This is not working. Let me come to your house." So he doesn't have to come in the car. He doesn't have to have his harness on. And let's see if it makes a difference. I get 45 minutes now
Mm.
of really good
Oh
focused
wow.
work, which means I can completely clip
Amazing.
them off in 45 minutes and get a little bit of time to have a
Yeah.
fuss and a bit of a play. So it really is just
Brilliant.
working out what's best for each dog.
Yeah. Yeah. Working with the dog in front of you. I love that. What can pet parents do at home to prepare their dogs for a stress-free grooming session? So obviously, you mentioned some bath them, but is there anything else in terms of preparation?
Yeah, a lot of it is obviously if they buy my books, they can do a lot of work at home with making
Yes.
themselves more comfortable with being groomed. But it's thinking about any triggers leading up to a groom. So if you've got a dog that's reactive to other dogs, that is sensitive to other dogs or other people, or life in general, try and keep them stress free as much as you can the few days up to a groom, so that they're coming into the grooming
Yes.
salon as peaceful as possible. So some
Make sure
groomers will
that bucket isn't full.
absolutely make sure that bucket's as empty as possible. We do have a lot of groomers that will say if they've got a difficult dog, they'll say, "Oh, take it for an hour's walk before they bring them to the salon, wear them out." And I'm
Oh,
thinking,
okay.
that's all
No,
well and good, but what
that's
if
not
you've
good.
got a dog that is really sensitive to other dogs or people and being out in the street,
Yeah,
that's
you're
going to
adding to
upset
that
them.
bucket.
But also, what if you've got a dog that's got bilateral that's got hip dysplasia or luxating patella? Then they're coming into the salon in pain. And whilst I'm
Oh,
talking about pain, pain is probably one of the biggest issues in the grooming salon. There's a lot
yeah.
more dogs
Okay.
in pain, and then they're blamed
And
for
they're
being
good at hiding it.
diet. They certainly are. You've got dogs that, come in and then they're being moved about, they're being washed and rubbed on probably joints that are painful, and then the dogs are blamed for getting aggressive when actually it's down to
Mm,
that pain. So I am
pain. Yeah.
because I probably only groom 10, 12 dogs a week. I'm very flexible. So if I've got a dog that has got an injury or been to had to have an emergency appointment at the vets or has been sick or ill overnight, I'd rather move that appointment and wait until the
Mm,
dog's better. Or if it's had
definitely.
I've got one dog in particular I'm working with, another working cocker spaniel, that he's really sensitive to rain.
Oh,
So
right.
if it's raining or really windy, we just move the appointment to another day when
Mm,
it's not wet and windy. Else
yeah.
otherwise, I know
Okay.
I'm gonna get nothing done because he's so stressed
Yeah.
because of the weather that he
Yeah.
can't cope, and he has got a bite history, not with me, but with previous because he was rehomed.
Oh, bless him.
So
Mm.
his new guardians are working with a vet behaviourist as well. So they're
Oh,
doing all they
lovely.
can
That's good.
to make this dog's life much better. But
Amazing.
I know that if I push him too far, he still will bite. So if
Mm.
I can eliminate all the triggers, as many triggers as I can before he comes into the salon, then that makes
Yeah,
sense to me. So I've got
definitely.
a, a less stressed dog to start with.
Definitely. Brilliant. So, moving on to our next section, which is breed specific grooming advice. So, different breeds have different grooming needs. Are there any general guidelines that pet parents should follow based on a coat type?
Yeah, so there are specific brushes or tools for different dogs, and you are best to talk to, depending on the coat type of your dog, because there are so many different, because poodles have been crossed with everything now. They've
Yeah.
and all the coats vary so much.
Yeah.
You are probably best talking to a groomer to ask what you should be using. But in saying that, I have found so for an example, if you went to most groomers and you said, I've got a cockapoo, what brush is best? They will say a slicker brush.
Right.
However, some dogs don't like slicker brushes and it's going to make it more difficult. So this is really naughty of me, and Grimmer's going to hate me for saying this. But I actually keep a really big selection of brushes in my salon,
Okay.
including human hair brushes.
Okay.
And I will, if I try with a slicker brush on a dog and it doesn't like a slicker brush, I'll try one of the other brushes.
Yeah.
And if they find that brush easy, then that's the brush for them because
Exactly.
it's no use trying to force a brush onto a dog. As long as you are parting the fur and combing out from the root to the tip of the fur, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter what brush you use, as long as you're keeping that dog mat free. And in fact, some dogs will tolerate a steel tooth comb, much easier than a brush. So,
Definitely.
whilst yes, there are general guidelines of what brush you should be using for what breed and what
Yeah.
coat type, you've got to apply a bit of common sense. And if your dog doesn't like that type of brush, use a
Yeah.
different one.
That's it.
Um,
Yeah.
And technically, really, realistically, the breeder should be advising you on what brush to use for your dog. So
Yeah.
if you've got a dog that's got short fur, then something like a Zoom Groom is really good. Longer coats, then generally people advise a slicker brush. Double
Yeah.
coated, we advise a rake. But if they
Yeah.
don't do that, then find something that your dog will tolerate and make sure that you're really thorough in brushing them.
Exactly. Brilliant. Do certain breeds struggle more with grooming than others?
Yes. Anything I actually find the dogs that struggle most with being groomed is, any gun dog breed crossed with a poodle,
Yes.
particular cockapoos. My books are full of cockapoos.
Wow.
Then some I've got a they've got a couple of cavapoos actually, um, s labradoodles, golden doodles.
All the poodle doodles.
All the poodles crossed with gun dogs, and then I've got a couple of West Island Terriers and a couple of
Oh,
Shih Tzus seems to be the other popular breed that don't enjoy being groomed.
right.
And I
Okay.
think that's because 'cause they've got such badly design bodies. They've
Yeah.
got little legs, so it's really difficult to get around the leg areas. But yeah,
Yeah.
in particular, I mean, who thought crossing a spaniel with a poodle was a good idea?
Oh, God knows. What's your take on the shaven, double-coated breeds debate?
Right, in a perfect world, they wouldn't be shaved because
Okay.
this goes back to, their coats are designed for a purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is a lot of research that shows that shaving them does damage the coat.
Yeah.
But I would if a double coated breed came to me completely matted, I would rather clip it and worry about
Mm.
coat funk later.
Mm.
As double coated breeds, dogs do get older and they're laying down more, then they're more prone to matting. And again, I would rather shave it than the guardian's really struggling to brush a dog that's got arthritis in its rear end,
Mm.
and pulling on those mats. I would rather shave it.
Yeah.
I know it's not generally approved of in the grooming industry, but I'm all for welfare over
Yeah.
vanity. Uh,
Definitely. Yeah.
and I've got a couple of collies that I groom that spend a lot of time in wet, muddy fields and get very wet underneath, and I do shave them.
Yeah.
Shave them underneath, not the front coat, but I do shave the underneath because otherwise they're just matted every
Yeah,
time they
and
come in.
like you say, it's
They
a
they
welfare
don't
issue.
enjoy they don't enjoy being brushed underneath and the back legs. So it's a no-brainer for me. I know technically I shouldn't, but it's better for the dogs.
Well, that's all that matters, what's best for the dog. So, moving on to just our next section, we're nearly done. We've so much. 'Cause Pat, we're gonna have to get you back on because there's so much we could talk so much more about the products and tools, what's worth it and what's not. There are a million grooming products out there, but what is your ride and died grooming essential?
Okay. Every I think every guardian that's got a wool-coated dog or a drop-coat dog or a double-coated dog needs Cowboy Magic Detangler. And I
Right.
love that because it's not got a strong aroma, but
Mm,
also it's like a serum rather than most detangling products are a spray.
right.
We know dogs don't like being sprayed.
No, they don't.
That's why they're
Right.
used as a deterrent for bad behavior.
Oh,
So I don't like any products that you have to spray on dogs.
yeah.
Um, so this Cowboy Magic, you get it's like a serum, so it's like hair gel. And it is
Mm,
amazing. You just rub this into where the coat's matted, leave it for
right.
3 or 4 minutes, and then it just brushes out. Obviously, if it's a thick mat, it's not gonna work. It's not a miracle worker, but if you've just got a little tangle, it's really, really productive for that.
Yeah.
So Cowboy Magic is one I would really recommend. I love the Doodle, the Mickey, that's Mikki, Doodle brush.
Okay.
It's a pin brush, so the spikes have got little pin heads on, so it's not
Right.
as harsh on the coat. And
Mm.
it's a really cheap and cheerful one as well. I think it's something like about £10, but
Oh, wow.
it's really ergonomically designed, so it's comfortable to hold. The dogs seem to like it a lot more than some of the other brushes out there, so I have got quite a few of the doodle brushes, and I use them even on dogs that are not doodles. Other products I like, I love Organic shampoo. It's really again, it's a low aroma shampoo,
Yeah.
but it's really good quality. It brings the coat up lovely, and it's really kind. So when I first started grooming, I was using different shampoos, and winter was a right pain because my hands would get so sore
I
from
bet.
bathing the dogs and being cold, and I'd get really sore hands. But since I switched to Organic, I don't get sore hands at all.
Oh, wow.
So Organic is my go-to shampoo now for most dogs. There's a couple of dogs I use Duxo. If they've got skin issues, then Duxo's a really good product as well.
Yeah.
Um, then a lick and calm mat, you know,
Yeah.
it's technically not a grooming product, but it's something I use on a regular basis, or a
Yeah.
colourful mat.
Grooming
And
accessory.
yeah, and Pet Remedy calming spray or
Yes.
products, and I
Yeah.
find that's really good.
Big
And
fan of them.
if you want to buy any pet, because I'm the a Pet Remedy ambassador,
Yeah, so
so
am
if
I.
yeah,
Wow,
so we've
partner.
got
I'm
a
a
part,
partner, you're
yeah,
in.
so
Yeah.
we've got codes we can use to get discounts if people want to
Yeah.
use them. I'll let you use your code. So Pet Remedy. And something I do recommend is if you have got a dog that is not a massive fan of going to the grooming salon, use Pet Remedy at home when they're
Yes.
already calm, and then take
Yeah.
some Pet Remedy in with you to the grooming salon so they smell that Pet Remedy and it reminds them of being calm. So that can
Yeah.
help, really help. But I do use Pet Remedy a lot in the salon as well. So Pet
Brilliant.
Remedy is on my list of do or die products.
Brilliant. So you mentioned, I think it was like an organic type one, but natural versus chemical-based grooming products, does it make a difference?
For me, yes. I suffer from migraines, so
Oh, so do I. Gosh, yeah.
if I use anything that's got any highly perfumed, some cleaning products are really bad for me as well. So
Mm.
I try and I can't help but think if strong smells or strong chemical smells give me migraines, there's no reason to think why they don't give dogs migraines or headaches, particularly as their sense of smell is way better than ours.
Yes,
I
it
can only
is.
think how much some of the products that we use must smell to the dogs. That must be absolutely horrendous,
God, yeah.
so strong. So I do like to keep my products as low scented as possible
Yeah.
for my benefit as much as the dogs, because obviously I don't want to
Yeah.
be having migraines every day.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's true.
so again, this poor organic one, the aromas are so delicate.
A
There's
scarf.
vintage mint,
Oh.
which is a little bit smells a little bit minty. Sherbet lemon. I love the sherbet lemon one because it does remind me of the sweets. And
Yeah.
then there's the Yankee Doodle one, which is brilliant, would be brilliant for your poodles, and it
Oh.
doesn't really smell of anything, so it's a really neutral smell.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's why I like the poor organic stuff, because the aroma is so low and it's really kind to my skin as well. So I don't use any strong chemical-based stuff,
Yeah.
can avoid it. Obviously, we have to clean our equipment, and I tend to use Milton sterilising tablets for that. So,
Oh, okay, yeah.
again, I don't clean the stuff while the dogs are in the salon. I make sure that those smells have disappeared by the time I bring the next dog in. So, yeah, try and a lot of groomers will use colognes on dogs.
Yes.
Just don't see the point.
Right. Yeah.
Your dog
I
would
like
not
it.
choose to smell of Yves Saint Laurent or Calvin Klein. They'd much rather smell of fox poo. We
Yeah.
know that.
So that might be one of the products or tools you'd like to see owners throw in the bin. That was my next question. Are there any products or tools that you see owners using that you'd love to throw in the bin?
Oh, apart from extendable leads,
Oh god, yeah, not a fan of flexi leads. Yeah,
and, any tools obviously that we'd consider to be aversive.
massive.
But from a groomer's point of view, those mat splitters that have got blades on them that you're supposed to they're like little hooks that have got a blade on
Oh,
one side that you're supposed to split the mat with and cut the mat out. S
oh gosh.
They're quite dangerous in the wrong hands.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But other than that, as long as pet parents are using appropriate tools for their dog, grooming tools for their dogs,
Yeah.
then that's okay.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
to me. There's lots of products I'd like to see disappear out of grooming salons.
For now. All right, so I'm going to ask you a question on the role of the dog parent in the grooming success. So, for those dog parents who might be feeling overwhelmed, Sue, what's one simple thing they can start doing today to improve their dog's grooming experience?
Try and keep them mat free.
Yeah,
Even
yeah,
if, even if I've got a dog come to me that's matted, I can make it as stress free as possible. But if the dog's matted, it's going to be uncomfortable.
yeah, yeah,
So the one of the first things I do with new guardians is teach them how to brush properly, not
yeah.
only just line brushing, but to brush with trust. And
Love that
because
brush.
many of them stay anyway, they see the techniques I use and they carry on using those at home.
Yeah,
So yeah, just try and keep your dogs as mat free as possible
makes
because
the groomer's job easier as well
it makes the groomer's job easier, but it also makes it less stressful for the
for
dog.
the dog, and that's ultimately what
I
we
can
want.
only imagine how uncomfortable it must be, firstly being matted, but then having a groomer pulling at your skin and to get those mats out. It
Oh,
must be like somebody constantly pulling your hair.
horrible.
I mean,
Yeah,
if anybody wants to, feel how it must feel to be to have to be brushed out when you're matted, just rough your hair up for a bit and put some chewing gum in it and then
oh
try and
god,
brush it out.
get a knot in it.
'Cause that must be how it feels.
Oh,
I mean, I've got cotton old hair, and if I've got a cot in my hair, it's really uncomfortable to brush it out,
it is, yeah.
and I've got
Um,
control of how much I pull.
what would you say is the best way for pet parents to build trust for their dog when it comes to handling and grooming?
Learn about body language
Yes,
and then follow that body language.
big
I
on that.
I do think that small dogs really struggle with handling because as puppies and probably throughout their lives, they're just picked up without any consideration of whether they want to be picked up, whether they want to be handled, whether they want to be stroked. And with little dogs, you know yourself, you've got toy poodles. It's really easy to pick them up and force them to do force your will on them. And
Yeah,
that's the worst thing you can do. And it does really impact on handling in the salon as well. So many
yeah,
dogs don't like being picked up that come to the salon. And I think a lot of that is down to overhandling at home when the puppies and,
yeah.
you know, very little choice. So I've got a party poodle, a miniature party poodle, and she hates being picked up. If ever I pick her up without getting her consent first, she just braces against you. So
Oh,
I just don't pick her up unless I absolutely have to. If we're going in the car, we've taught her to put her feet on the bumper when she's ready to be picked up, to be put in the car.
oh.
And she's always the first one at the car now with the paws on, ready to go in the car. In the grooming salon, she uses the steps to get on and off the table. So really, the only
Um,
time I have to pick her up is if I think she's in danger, and then I'd rather
yeah,
pick her up and struggle against me than be in danger, which is
that's
extremely rare because I don't put her in a position where she's in danger. But if
yeah.
I think, if a big dog's running up to her because she's not good with she's not confident with other dogs that
Mm,
she doesn't know, so I'd rather pick her
mm,
up and make her feel a little bit safer, but, I avoid
definitely.
picking her up whereas my other poodle, I can pick her up anytime and she'll love it, so it's really paying attention to your dog's body language,
That's it.
really getting to know your dog and what your dog likes and dislikes,
Yeah,
and that's the
definitely.
best way to build trust with them, and
That's it.
I think when you have them as puppies, build that bond first. Yeah, it's
Mm,
great to have a dog that can sit, that can do tricks, but I really feel that if you build a bond with your dog first, they'll want to do training with you
a
later. So,
absolutely. Brilliant. Yeah, really big on that bond and that relationship and body language and stuff. So we've covered so much. It's been such a jam-packed episode. So we're gonna, for the last 5 or so minutes, start to bring it all round to a close and just ask you some final questions or tips, if I may. I did want to quickly touch on a couple of things that I wanted to say about obviously how important it is to desensitize a puppy to the groomers. I
Yeah,
used to say that in my puppy classes, but just
brilliant.
like just like going to the vets, take them in there every week and get the receptionist or the nurse to give them a treat and that, so that they're not just deeming it a stressful experience every time they go in. So a
Yeah,
bit like a grooming salon is take them for these puppy introductions and get them used to the environment and that.
yeah. Just be very careful when you're talking about groomers and puppy introductions, because for some groomers, a puppy introduction is a bath and a blow dry.
Right. Okay. Yes.
So if you're talking about that, be really specific of what you want them to do. So if you want to take your dog into a grooming salon to get it used to being used to the surroundings first, make it really specific to the groomer that that's all you want to do. You want to take them in for 5 minutes. You may
Yeah.
have to pay for that time, but it's worth it in the long run.
It is.
So
Yeah.
I've had a lot of puppies come to me after having one session with another, have been through another groomer's puppy introduction package, which is really not a puppy introduction package, it's a bath. For example, if you take it to a well-known store groomers, a puppy introduction is a bath and dry,
Right.
and that is far too much for some puppies. So
It is.
I know you've got a lot of trainers and behaviourists that listen to these podcasts as well. So if I could really encourage them to talk to their pet parents, particularly puppies, about introducing them to a groomer as soon as possible. Because
Yes.
a lot of people will wait until the puppies are 5, 6 months and matted
Too late.
before they take them to a groomer's, because cockapoo breeders in particular will say, don't get them groomed until the 6 months old." Sorry.
No, don't apologise. I love it. It's
I'm
like I
getting
say,
flogged.
normally it's mine on my lap. So
Yeah, so cockapoo a lot of cockapoo poo breeders will say, "Don't get them groomed until 6 months," by which
yeah,
time they're fully matted and it's horrendous for them. So as soon as the vaccinations are complete,
get
get
them
them
in
in
then.
for short sessions, even if
Yeah,
you just take them in by pre-arranged appointment for 10 minutes where the groomer's just giving them treats,
that's
you
it.
know,
Yeah,
and just
yeah,
make it really positive. And if trainers and behaviourists can talk to their pet parents about that as
yeah.
well, then the word will get spread more
That's
quickly.
that's so important. Like I say, I used to do it in my puppy classes, but that's so important and a good message to get out. I want to quickly touch because you've mentioned calming signals a few
Yes.
times, just in case our listeners. I don't think I know, and I probably should. What are calming signals?
You know what they are when I tell you that, but it's probably stress indicators, so things like
Oh
the
right. Oh
whale
yes.
eye, yawning.
Lip
I know them as
licking.
calming signals because of Turid Rugas.
Oh yes, Turd. Yes.
Her
Oh okay.
her book refers to them as calming signals, but other people call them
Yes.
stress indicators. So yeah,
Yes.
the whale eye, the yawning, lip
Lip
licking,
licking.
paw
Yeah. Right.
lifts.
Paw lift. Blinking. Right. I'm with you. Right.
Yeah.
Sue, your top tips for a happy groomed dog. If you could give dog parents three golden grooming rules, what would they be?
Okay. So make sure you get a fit for purpose groom. So if you've got a cockapoo that's going in fields every day, have a short trim. Don't make them have a really fancy style that's long that you've got to bath and brush out every day, particularly if they don't enjoy it. Introduce them to grooming as puppies and make it really positive. And there was another one. What was the other one I was going to say? Make sure you go to the groomers on a regular basis. So some guardians will probably only take the dog to the groomers when they think they need grooming, so they might be 10, 12 weeks apart. That doesn't make for a pleasant experience if your dog's matted. So
A long
find a
time for a dog.
groomer that your dog, not necessarily that you like, that your dog likes, and go on a regular basis. So I have most dogs in every 6 weeks, some every 4 weeks, but I don't let them go any longer than 8 weeks, especially if they've got a cockapoo, preferably 6 weeks. So most of my
Yeah.
dogs are on a 6-week cycle.
Yeah, my toy
I
poodles are.
Yeah, I won't take a dog on that only comes in 2 or 3 times a year.
No.
It's not fair on the dog.
Yeah.
I can't do anything with a dog 2 or 3 times a year,
No.
especially if
Um,
if I'm doing desensitization or counter conditioner. I can't work with that.
that's it. Sue, is there one grooming myth you wish you'd love to bust?
Oh, there's lots I'd like to bust. I did write
God,
one
put me
down
on.
though, so I'm actually
Oh,
gonna go back to
okay.
my notes. I did write
No,
one down.
that's okay.
Um, oh yeah, there is a bit of a and it applies to dog training as well. Just because we can doesn't mean we should.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can groom a dog. We can put lots of safety aids on. I'm careful not to use restraints, so we can use multiple safety restraints. We can use a muzzle. We can have somebody hold the dog and force them to be groomed. But just because we can doesn't mean we should.
Yeah. Brilliant. So, thank you so much for joining me on the Yappy Hour
Yeah, I think it's
today.
a bit longer than an hour today.
I, I don't care, and I really don't mind. I knew it would be, and there was just so much I wanted to cover, and I definitely want to get you back on in the future because I feel we've only just
Oh, that
scratched the
would be
surface.
amazing.
But where can our listeners find out more about you if they want to learn about you or book a session?
Okay, so my business is called Happy Paws with Sue,
Yeah,
but most people now know me as taking the girl out of grooming dogs.
that's
So
right.
I have got a website which is www.happypawswithsue.co.uk, but most people find me through my Facebook page, which is Taking the Girl Out of Grooming Dogs.
Yeah,
So yeah, if you join that Facebook group, anybody can join. It doesn't matter whether you're a trainer, a groomer, a guardian, physiotherapist, anybody can join my group as long as they answer the joining questions.
yeah,
And it really is, I'm really proud of the group because it is all force free.
yes,
Occasionally, we'll get people recommending a muzzle, and that's taken off straight away.
yeah,
And it's not that we're against muzzles, it's just that if you are going to use a muzzle, they need to be muzzle trained.
absolutely. Yeah,
So yeah, my home, say my website is Happy Paws with Sue, but most people get to know me now through Taking the Girl
yeah,
Out of Grooming Dogs on
brilliant.
Facebook. And
Where are
of
you
course,
based in?
I'm in Leicester, in
Leicester. Yeah,
Leicestershire. Yeah,
brilliant.
I have got the 3 books as well if people, but again, they can learn about that through my Facebook page. And at the beginning of March, I'm going to be launching a new education program,
Oh,
which is going to include stuff like body language, how the brain works,
amazing.
aimed at groomers, but I've already got guardians interested in it as well. And
God, I'd be interested.
there's going to be loads of information on there about, a bit about dog behaviour to set the scene and so people understand why consent grooming is
Brilliant.
important. But then there's going to be information about talent and touch, animal sense and
Wow.
education. I'm going to do a boast now because I was the first groomer in the world to use free work in the grooming salon.
You boast away. I love that.
Yeah, I was the first groomer in the world to use it because I'm one of Sarah's advanced tutors.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so
Yes,
yeah,
I did see
I
that.
was at the farm when she first introduced Ace
At
Free
Tilly
Work
Farm,
to
yeah.
us. I forgot what I was going to say now.
Oh, just about your education program's coming out in
Yeah, so
March
it's
and
going to
it's got Ace
include
in it.
it'll have free work on there as well. But I've put together a really long list of quick hacks. So
Wow.
quick training things. There is a complete section on different training technique, positive based training techniques. But then
Yeah.
there's going to be a module on really quick hacks that you can use to make grooming easier in the salon or at home. So really, it's a lot of it is what I've learned over the years
Yeah.
and then adapted to grooming. So
Brilliant.
hopefully, it's been really successful as well.
Brilliant. Well, our listeners can look out for that and obviously follow you on socials and via your
Yeah,
website. Sue, thank you so much for joining me today
you're
on the Yappy
welcome.
Hour, powered by Yappily. It's been absolutely amazing, and I've loved chatting to you and getting all your words of wisdom. We will definitely have you back in the future.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
but like I say, thank you for joining me, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Lovely, thank you.
Right, let's do a quick recap of today's episode with Sue Williamson because we covered a lot. Consent based grooming isn't just about looks, it's about making the experience stress free and enjoyable for the dog. Grooming is an essential part of a dog's well-being. Neglecting it can lead to discomfort, matting, and even health issues. Anxious or sensitive dogs can learn to enjoy grooming with the right approach, patience, and desensitization. Brushing at home is crucial. Waiting until your dog is a matted mess before seeing the groomer isn't fair to them or your groomer. Pet parents play a huge role in making grooming a positive experience. Simple things like rewarding calm behaviour and getting dogs used to handling can make a big difference. Huge thanks to Sue for sharing her wisdom with us today. If you found this episode helpful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, share it with your fellow dog parents, and leave us a review. It really helps us to reach more people who want to give their dogs the best life possible. You can also find Sue and her work at Happy Paws with Sue. That's it for today's Yappy Hour, powered by Yappily. Until next time, keep your pups healthy, happy, and well groomed. I'll see you next time.